Hello guys, my name is Balkrishna Srivastav and welcome to CodeWithBK. So in this video, we solve the problem to read a matrix input in Java. So this is the input we are given where this first integer is the number of rows, second integer is the number of columns, and these are the values of the matrix, the 2D array that we have to read in a Java program. So before we begin, it is a request that if you like this video, if you find this helpful, please do subscribe to my channel because your support is very important for me to grow on YouTube. Alright, let's begin. So we have to read this input in a Java program, okay, in a 2D array, in a matrix, okay. So matrix is basically a 2D array, okay. So this is one input. There is another kind of input where you are not given this, okay. You are not told the number of rows and columns separately. You are just given the data for the matrix, okay. You are just given these values and you have to determine from these values what is the number of rows and what is the number of columns for this matrix. So this second case we are going to solve in our next video, okay. In this one we have number of rows, number of columns, and then the values, okay. So I'll write a basic template for a main method. I'll write say class matrix input, okay, public static void main string args, function begins here and closes here, okay. And we will read this matrix in the main method of our program, okay. So the input has the number of rows, number of columns, and the values for the 2D array. So the number of rows I'm going to store in the variable m. The number of columns I'm going to store in the variable n, and then this 2D array, okay, or the matrix, okay. So this is for number of rows, number of columns, and matrix. These three are the variables I need. And to read input, okay, I am going to use a scanner object. So I'll create a scanner, sc is equal to new scanner. And since my input is in the standard input, that is, it is in the console or terminal, okay, I am going to pass system.in, okay, as the argument to this constructor to indicate that this scanner object is to read from standard input. And finally, I close scanner. Closing the scanner is a good coding practice because scanner is reading from the source. This standard input is a source, and you should always close the source when you are done reading, okay. Since in this input I have space separated integers, I am going to use the nextInt method of scanner class, okay. I could use next line, okay, or next as well, but nextInt is the most convenient way to read this matrix into a program, okay. So let me tell you a little bit about nextInt. So nextInt is a method of scanner class, okay, and it extracts and returns an int from scanner source, that is from the source this scanner is scanning from, ignoring all white space characters, okay. This WS stands for white space, and white space characters can be any possible white space, so single white space, \t, \n, etc., okay. And what do I mean by exactly this definition? Let me take some examples. So suppose my terminal / console, okay, my standard input where this input will be given, okay, is this, okay. This is my prompt, okay. And suppose if I give input enter, this denotes that I'm pressing enter key in my input. Enter, space 43, space enter, space 56, space 7, enter, space 8. So the nextInt definition says that I have to ignore all white space characters from the input as long as I don't find an integer, okay. So the first call of nextInt on this input is going to be sc.nextInt, okay. And following this definition, nextInt is going to work on this input. So this is the white space, ignored, white space, ignored, white space, white space, white space. Integer found is 43. So the first call to nextInt, okay, for this input given to this scanner, okay, we will return 43, okay. And this is the input part which is still left in the scanner object, okay. So the next call of nextInt is going to read from the remaining input. So if I call nextInt again, okay, same definition is followed. I ignore all white space characters till I find an integer. So we are starting from here because this is the remaining input. This is a white space, okay. I am using this for a white space. This is not an underscore. This is to denote a white space, okay. Alright. Then we have enter, ignored, space ignored. Then we have 56. So second call returns 56, and this is the input that we have used, okay. This blue part is the input left now, okay. Third call of nextInt, okay, we start from here. White space ignored, 7 is returned, okay. So this input is used, okay. 7 is returned and this blue part is left. Okay, this is 7, sorry. Okay, so and this is an enter sign. Okay, so the next call of nextInt, okay, is going to follow the definition again. This is an enter, white space ignored, space white space, 8 is returned. So 8 is returned. Okay, so now we have used all the input that we gave, okay, to the scanner object. Okay, and if we call nextInt again, okay, there is no more input left. I am calling nextInt again. I do not have an integer, so I get no such element exception. Okay, because I am expecting an integer, but there is nothing left in the input. Okay, but in our program, we exactly know how many integers to read, so we won't be getting a no such element exception. So coming back to our code, the first thing we read is the number of rows. So I say m is sc.nextInt. Okay, first call of nextInt to the input. Okay, from the scanner. Okay, next we read the number of columns, which is n sc.nextInt. Okay, so we have read the values of number of rows and number of columns in m and n respectively, and we have to read these values into the array now, 2D array now. So before we can read values into our matrix, we create this matrix. Okay, we create this 2D array. Okay, number of rows and number of columns. Okay, so when you create an array in Java whose data type is int, be it 1D array, 2D array, 3D array, okay, the default values to all locations are 0. So you don't have to explicitly initialize each of the locations to 0. So when you do this, basically what you get is something like m into n. So m is 3 and n is 4. So basically you get 3 rows and 4 columns. Okay, okay. So column 0, 1, 2, 3, row 0, 1, 2. Okay, and each of the values inside is right now 0. Okay, and now, okay, after our 2D array is created, we have to read all these values and populate our matrix A, okay, with these values from the input. Okay, so I'm going to use a nested for. So I'm going to say int I equal to 0, I is less than m, which is number of rows, I plus plus. Okay, and outer loop runs m times because each value of I is basically for one row. Okay, and for each row you have 4 columns, that is n number of columns. So the nested for is going to run int j equal to 0, j runs till n times for each value of I and j plus plus. Okay, I am going to call nextInt and store the value in this variable v. Okay, and then I'm going to set aij to v. Okay, so how exactly this works, I'm going to drag in this code on this input. Okay, and we'll see how this input, okay, is populated into this matrix A. Till here we just have variables. Okay, m, n to store rows and columns, a to store the matrix, and here we are creating a scan, okay, to read from the input. This is the first call to nextInt. Okay, so in my input, after 3 we are changing a line, so I'm going to denote a change in line with this. Okay, so this indicates change in line. Okay, after 3 we change a line, after 4 we change a line, after 10 we change a line, after 18 we change a line, and in between these integers there is a single space. Okay, so we start reading values from here now. M is sc.nextInt. nextInt ignores all white spaces till it finds an integer. Okay, so this is the first integer returned. Okay, 3. Okay, and m becomes 3. Okay, then sc.nextInt is called again. Ignore white spaces till you find an integer. This is a white space. Ignored, integer found 4, n is 4. We create a matrix which was this, then we come to this for loop. For loop, I have I, okay, I is less than m, which is 3 in this case. I have j is less than n, which is 4 in this case. Okay, then I have the value b. Okay, so I starts at 0. Okay, 0 less than 3 is true. Okay, so we go inside the loop. J is 0, 0 is less than 4 is true. We come here. This is the third call to nextInt. Okay, so we have to start reading from here. White space ignored, this is returned. Okay, so the next value of v is 2. Okay, sc.nextInt returns the value stored into v, and then you do aij is v. A00 is 2. Okay, so 2 comes here. Okay, we were here, we go back here, we do j plus plus, j becomes 1. 1 is less than n, 1 is less than 4 is true. We call sc.nextInt again. Okay, so now this is ignored, this is returned. Okay, so the next value of v is 8. We do aij is v, a 0, 1 is 8, 0, 1 is 8. We go back here, j plus plus, j becomes 2. Okay, 2 is less than n, 2 is less than 4 is true. You come here, next call of nextInt. Okay, white space is ignored, this integer is returned, so v becomes 16. Okay, aij is v, a0 comma 2 is v, a0 comma 2 is 16. Okay, we come back here, j plus plus, j becomes 3. Okay, 3 is less than n, 3 is less than 4 is 2. We come back here, next call of nextInt, this is ignored, this is returned. The return value is 10, so v is 10. Then we have 0 comma 3, a 0 comma 3 is v, so 0 comma 3 is 10. Okay, you go back here, j plus plus, j becomes 4. 4 is less than 4 is false. Okay, so you come out of this nested for loop and you do I plus plus. Okay, I becomes 1. So you can see I is going this way and j is going this way. Alright. Okay, I plus plus happened, I became 1. 1 is less than 3 is true. Okay, we start j again, j is 0, 0 is less than 4 is true. We come here, next call of nextInt. So this change in line is ignored, we return 4. So v gets 4. Okay, aij is v, a10 is 4, a10 is 4. Okay, we go back, increment j, j becomes 1. Okay, j is less than n, 1 is less than 4. Okay, next call of nextInt, this is ignored, this is returned. 1 is returned in v, v becomes 1, then aij is v, a11 is 1. Okay, we go back to increment the value of j, j becomes 2, 2 is less than 4 is true. You come inside, sc.nextInt, this is ignored, this is returned, v becomes 9, aij, a12 is 9. Okay, you come back here, j plus plus, j becomes 3, 3 is less than 4 is true. You come inside this for loop, v is st.nextInt, this is ignored, 18 is returned, v is 18. Okay, then you do aij, a13 is 18. Okay, you go back, j plus plus, j becomes 4, j is less than n, 4 is less than 4 is false. You come out of this loop. Okay, you increment I becomes 2. You check 2 is less than m, 2 is less than 3. Okay, you come back here again. J is 0. Okay, 0 is less than n, 0 is less than 4 is true. Okay, you call nextInt again. This is ignored, this is returned. 7 is returned, so v has 7. A20 is 7. A20 is 7. Okay, you go back and increment j, j becomes 1. 1 is less than n, 1 is less than 4 is true. NextInt is called, so this is ignored, this is returned. Okay, so v gets 3. Okay, v gets 3, aij is v, a21 is 3. Okay, you go back here, j is incremented, j becomes 2, 2 is less than 4 is true. Okay, nextInt is called again, this is ignored, this is returned, v becomes 8. Okay, v becomes 8, aij is v, a22 is 8. Okay, you go back, increment j, j becomes 3, 3 is less than 4 is true. NextInt is called again, this is ignored, this white space is ignored, 21 is returned, v becomes 21. Okay, aij is v, a2 comma 3 is 21. Okay, you go back here, j becomes 4, 4 is less than 4 is false. You cannot come out of this loop, you increment I becomes 3, 3 is less than 3 is false. You cannot come out of this loop and you have read this entire input into your array A. So this is how you input a matrix into your 2D array in the Java program. So what you need to keep in mind is the total number of calls to nextInt should be equal to the total number of integers you have in the input. Okay, first 2 integers for m and n, and then m into n integers. So for 3 into 4, 12 integers, you need to call nextInt 12 times. Okay, if there is a case that there is a space missing between these 2 integers, so it becomes one single integer. Okay, for example, if there is no space between 7 and 3, so 7 and 3, no space, it becomes 73, which is one single integer. Okay, so in that case, the number of integers in input become less than the total number of calls to nextInt. Okay, in that case, you will get no such element exception because you're expecting an integer which is not there. Okay, second thing you need to keep in mind is there should be at least one white space between 2 integers. What I mean to say is, if you have multiple white spaces between 2 integers, it does not matter. This code is going to run the same because nextInt ignores all the white spaces. Okay, so for example, if between 3 and 4 we have 3 blank lines, okay, it is still going to produce the same output. Or for between 7 and 3 we have one space right now. Suppose we have 5 spaces, okay, still going to run the same. Okay, because nextInt ignores all white space, but there has to be at least one. Okay, otherwise it becomes one single integer. Okay, so in our next video we won't have this. We won't have the number of rows and number of columns separately given as input. We'll be just given the values of the 2D array, which is the matrix, and from this we have to realize what is the number of rows and what is the number of columns. Okay, so if only this input is given, we can see 3 lines, so 3 rows, 4 integers in one line, so 4 columns. Okay, so in the next video I'll show you how to do that. So before moving on to a system and running this, it is a request that if you like this video, if you found this helpful, please subscribe to my channel, and let's move on to running this code on the system now.
So this is the code we wrote, okay, and I've written a function to print the matrix as well. So let me run this. Java C, Java. So I have to provide input now. 2 rows, 3 columns. First row is 4, 5, 6. Second row is 7, 8, 9. So input matrix is this. Okay. Let me run it for the given input which is in the file in.txt. So this is the input that we worked on, and I am going to redirect this to this program. Okay. So input matrix is 2, 8, 6, 10, 16, 10, 4, 9, 19, and the same. Okay. We can change. We can do 3 rows, 5 columns as well. I'll say 1, 1, 1 and 1. Okay, add a column to each. Run this again. Okay, all right. And to demonstrate that extra white spaces are ignored, for nextInt I'm going to add extra white spaces, white space, white space, white space, white space, white space, white space. Okay, and still we'll get the same output. Okay, because extra white space are ignored when nextInt is reading an integer from a source. Okay, problem will occur if there is no space between 2 integers. Now this 28 has become 28. Okay, so we are 1 integer short, so we will get a no such element exception, which is here. Okay, on the nextInt, which is on line 14. Okay, so this is how you read a matrix from input into your Java program. So I hope this video was helpful. So please do like this video and subscribe to my channel, and please let me know if there was anything not clear to you in this video, if there is a concept you want me to discuss, or if there is a question you want me to solve. Okay, thank you.